styrofoam thinking it's other food, and they get not only the styrofoam from their bodies, but chemicals that have been absorbed onto it. We eat the fish that have eaten styrofoam. This is styrofoam.
This is fishing line.
Well, we're losing a lot of oceanic species because of the plastics and the other things that are in the ocean. And so if we lose, like whales are a huge thing that are being impacted, so are sea turtles. A lot of the larger organisms are really at risk of extinction potentially. And if we lose those, it's going to be a completely different ocean than what we know now. The entire food chain is going to be disrupted. And it's really concerning in terms of what we will have in our oceans, but also what we will rely on for food. So there's lots of different types of pollution, but there's air pollution, which is diffusing into the oceans. There's solid pollution, like solid trash, which is probably what most people think of with ocean pollution. So all sorts of plastics, and that's the major part of the physical pollution that's in the oceans. And then also sorts like nets and things like that left over from fishermen. And so those would be the major types of pollution. Then there's also, related to air pollution, there's increased carbon dioxide in the air is also diffusing in and causing the oceans to become more acidic, which is eating away at the shells of a lot of oceanic organisms. So there's different types of ocean pollution, but probably plastics in solid waste is the biggest portion of ocean pollution. So in terms of the plastics, we need to move away from a world that focuses so much on using plastics, especially single-use plastics. Coming up with alternatives is a huge endeavor, and there's a lot of neat innovations that are going into coming up with alternatives to using plastics. Coming up with ways to recycle is incredibly important. We're actually reducing how much we recycle these days because there's no market for it. So coming up with something we can do with plastics that have been recycled, turning them into something else that's usable would be really important, because we can't sell or pay other countries to take our plastics anymore like we used to. So we have now discovered a garbage patch in all of the ocean basins, but the North Pacific garbage patch was the first one discovered, and it is huge. It is because of the way that the ocean currents rotate. All of the plastics that end up in the ocean get concentrated in that central region, and it's large enough that people can walk on it. There are birds that now lay their eggs on it, which sounds like a good thing, but it's an island of plastic. It's not really a good thing. It's almost the size, I think they were saying it's like a third of the size of the country. Like, it's an insanely large floating chunk of plastic. And like I said, it's not the only one, it's just the biggest, and it was the first discovered. There's so many ways. Not only is it destroying the environment for recreational purposes, I mean, when you're trying to go boating or anything like that and you see all this trash around, the water itself is polluted, and so people don't want to be in it. There's this PFAS contamination now that, there's all this foam that's dangerous to even touch that's in the lakes in Michigan. There's our drinking water, our water supply. It's getting into our food. Hormones are getting into all of our fish and the organisms that live in these aquatic ecosystems. And then when we eat them, we're being exposed to those hormones. And so we're having problems with both male and female reproductive issues that seem to be related to that. I mean, there's sort of this almost endless list of ways that the pollution is impacting us. I don't know. It would be a lot. What we need to do again is make less trash. So when you think of the 3 R's, reduce, reuse, recycle, reducing is really key. And so reducing plastic straw or single-use plastic use, reducing the use of plastic bags, reducing the use of any of the plastics that we're using. That's got to be number one. And just reducing the amount of stuff we have. We have so much stuff, and a lot of it, almost all of it, ends up in landfills. And so just simply reducing is the number one key. And then when we do have stuff, reusing it so that it doesn't go straight to landfills. And then recycling would still be very important, but it's the one we focus on the most, and yet it actually does the least in terms of making a difference.